Cam got hit.
What's going on, folks? CJ here, back to give you a review on the recent Halloween movie directed by David Gordon Green, written by Danny McBride and David Gordon Green himself. Yes, the Danny McBride. Starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Nick Castle, reprising their roles respectively, Laurie and Michael. And also starring Judy Greer, Andy Matichak, Will Patton, and Virginia Gardner. It's amazing how the Halloween movies have kind of like morphed into like the franchise that it is. Like originally, for those that like the lore of it, Halloween was essentially supposed to be an anthology series. It wasn't necessarily supposed to be following just one story. It was supposed to be an anthology. It's supposed to be about different variety of things. And what's amazing to me is like how we've had 10 movies, and all the movies like coming, from 2 onwards have been varying degrees of memorable to like nobody gives a shit. And even to the extent where we had the Rob Zombie Halloween movies that was just like they are what they are and stuff. So when the first time when we had gotten like a follow up to the Halloween series, it was Halloween H2O 20 years later, and I thought then that it was a good kind of a cap off to the series, And in typical Hollywood fashion, they did a follow up Halloween Resurrection that kind of negated that sort of ending that H2O had for it. And, which sucks because I always felt that H2O was a good way to kind of like really end the series on that note with Laurie and stuff. So here we are, 2018 Halloween. And what this movie does is it basically ignores Halloween 2 onward. It's a direct follow-up to the original 1978 Halloween. And that, if there's one word to describe this movie, I would say very old school. And what I mean by that is like your typical slasher flick. Personally to me, it's very few and far between that you get a slasher flick horror movie that sticks to being very subtle and building up the kills and building up the suspense and stuff. It's always just, hey, look at this gore, bah. And don't get it twisted. This new Halloween movie has plenty of gore and slash and stuff, but I appreciate the fact that this movie builds up to it. The suspense, and Michael being the suspenseful person that he is, it's like when he kills, it comes out of nowhere, and it's great. It's great for jump scares. But the whole basis of the movie has Laurie. She's at, post, Halloween, she's been suffering PTSD, which understandably so. You're very traumatic experience where Michael stalked her in the first movie and stuff. So she's suffering PTSD to the extent to where she knows Michael's coming back. And I remember seeing a trailer and, she has the gun and, oh man, she's, badass Laurie Strode. And I was kind of rolling my eyes a little bit when I saw the trailer, like, I don't know. But then when you see the movie, it works. You had Laurie who, that PTSD from that has basically drove her to be just on edge 24/7, and essentially her feelings and all that stuff of dealing with their PTSD is kind of basically it basically fucked up her life. She multiple failed marriages, and to the extent that in one of her marriages, when they got divorced, her daughter, she lost custody of her daughter and stuff, and her relationship with her daughter is a bit on the outs to an extent. Her daughter is still trying to have a relationship a little bit with her and stuff, but like it's there, but Laurie is still there, still trying to piece together what she has, because again, she still feels that Michael's going to return, and her mentality and feeling as though Michael's return is not in the crazed way that they did her in Halloween Resurrection, where she was just batshit crazy. This is somebody, like, again, she's experiencing the PTSD that she experienced when she first tangled with Michael, and you see how it really affects her and stuff. To the extent, I mean, her whole house is basically a jail cell. It's like a trap house, essentially. Like, just Home Alone traps abound and everything and stuff. Because this is a woman that's been prepping for years for the inevitable Michael's return and stuff. She Halloween hits, she's just on edge because she knows it's coming. Now the thing about Michael is, you have these two journalists who are trying to get an understanding of Michael and the murders that happened back in the day, and Michael has a new psychiatrist because Dr. Loomis, who you remember from the first Halloween, he's dead, so he has a new psychiatrist now. And he sits there and throws out there that, oh, Michael can speak, and I'm sitting there like, oh, please don't let Michael speak. And now, thankfully, they don't do it. They just imply that he can speak, but he just chooses not to. So it's a bit of an interesting turn of events with that. So basically, essentially, they're transferring Michael to a maximum security prison. And you see Laurie, she's watching from afar because she wants to see this actually happen. She sees it, and she's still dealing with all that shit. And, shout out to Jamie Lee Curtis. She really does a fantastic job as Laurie. Again, you see her really in tune with the character. And I mean, she said it countless times in interviews that's what they were going for. And like I said, I will give John Carpenter kudos because, I feel, even though I feel that the Danny McBride and them and Green, they really was like, hey, we're gonna really do this movie really well. The characters were written well to an extent, like I said, particularly with Laurie and her daughter and her granddaughter and such. In typical fashion in these movies, you clearly have characters that are going to die because they're an archetype, so to speak, but it works in the grand scheme of it because, again, it's a very old school feel type of thing and such. And what I found interesting is that once the inevitable situation happens where Michael is free and the kill streak starts, that's when I was just like, okay, that's when the movie starts picking up. And that's when you can really see that this is the vision that I think Carpenter and them were trying to go for a proper Halloween sequel. Like, this is the Halloween 2 that Halloween 2 could have been. Because also about this movie is that they debunk a lot of things in it. Like, apparently, like I said earlier, the Halloween series was supposed to be an anthology. So when they did Halloween 2, the studio mandated Carpenter to really push for some sort of connection with Michael and Laurie, and the whole thing was basically Laurie was Michael's sister, and it was a very nonsensical mess when you really think about it, especially since it negates the story that you know about Michael in the first movie and stuff. And thankfully, what's funny about this movie is that they address that as just a rumor, and that's it. That immediately debunks everything. Because again, this movie ignores everything from Halloween 2 onward, which I think is great. You got Nick Castle portraying Michael Myers, which I think was great. You get him back portraying him, and like I said, Michael, I like the idea of them aging him up. You see the gray hairs and stuff in his hair and things like that. Michael's aged up a bit. He's still the killer that we all know and love, but he's just aged up a bit and stuff. And I think it works out great, very, very great for it and stuff. Like I said, I love the music. Like I said, very haunting, just off the chain. I love it and stuff. Not, like I said, it's again, as I pointed out earlier, it's very old school in nature and stuff. The music is good. Like I said, I think the characters are good. It's particularly, like I said, particularly with Laurie and Michael and stuff. Like I said, Michael's gonna be Michael. He's gonna just be out here, going at people and stuff, trying to kill them and all that stuff. Laurie being, like I said, again, person that's trying to, basically get over her PTSD. And it's amazing to me with her. She has this house that she's living in, and it's just this fun house of just crazy things going down, and it's and on top of the PTSD, it's the survivor's guilt, you know. And the thing of it is, with that survivor's guilt and stuff, it's there, but it also shapes who she is, because you get a lot of horror movies don't really tap into how trauma affects a person. I think the last time at least personally to me, that I've seen a movie that really tapped into the trauma of somebody dealing with murder and all that stuff was The Descent. And you can even say the Scream movies to an extent with that, where the person is coping with that. And what they do is, with her experiencing this PTSD, she ends up becoming a hermit, so to speak. She's teaching her daughter how to shoot and how to survive, even though her daughter is just like, really, you think Michael's coming back? And it's and it really shows the cause and effect of how her relationship, particularly with her daughter Karen, comes to mind and stuff. Because again, for all her being spooked by Michael, you can see the rift in her relationship and stuff, and you can see the look on Karen's face and how she resents her mother because of it, and all that comes into play when they're sitting there. Is at one point in the movie, right? They're sitting there and they're at a restaurant, they're eating, right? And you got a situation where somebody comes up there and they're just being pleasant and stuff, and just Laurie just immediately just loses it. And it takes her own granddaughter to tell her, hey, you need to kind of calm down a bit and stuff. And just everybody is just looking at her, and they, like, again, Jamie Lee does a really phenomenal job of selling, like, her dealing with Laurie dealing with her mental issues and stuff. And like I said, it's not like Laurie's just crazy. She's crazy because of what she experienced, with Michael. And I think it's great. I think, and the thing about this movie to me, and that's probably why I was very kind of skeptical going into it, is I didn't know how they were going to really tackle that. Because when the trailers give you the vibe that you think Laurie's just going to be Billy Badass, you're thinking, okay. And then when you watch the movie, you see how that really affects her and stuff, and you see how she's really struggling to kind of break that cycle of, like, not being crazy and all that and such. So, I just think in the grand scheme of everything encompassing that, and also Michael going back to stalking everybody and stuff on Halloween, it ends up working out great. And it's I just think overall, when I came out the movie, I was just sitting there like, this is good. This is great. I think the movie nailed what I want a lot of horror movies to really nail, and that's just the aspect of, on top of giving you kind of a three-dimensional character in Laurie, because they could have easily just had Laurie just go back to how she was in the very first movie and stuff, just be very defenseless and stuff. And I feel giving her that added depth of the PTSD and how it affected her family, her being the survivalist, and everything that you see with the house and the panic room and everything and stuff. I felt it gave it an added layer to that character, and just it heightened the movie and stuff. Sure, you have your moments where Michael's killing people who do dumb stuff, or they're just fodder for him to kill, but when it really comes down to it, when you see Michael and Laurie finally confront each other, it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying. It's definitely a proper sequel and a proper send off to how this thing goes. And I'm hoping that they observe the original intent of which Carpenter was trying to go through in this movie, of it being straight up a anthology, because I want to see what they can possibly do with this Halloween series, and I think they also are going to do a sequel. So who knows? Could be an anthology series. You never know. But yeah, I give this an 8 out of 10. I think it's a solid movie. Like I said, from Blumhouse, so that I think that also played a huge part in why the movie is what it is and stuff. It doesn't come across overly Hollywood like I would think in my head a Halloween movie would be and stuff. And I would definitely like to see them. I would like to see a lot of movies tackle that kind of topic of grief and trauma and the PTSD angles for characters, because that's something that you rarely see in these kind of movies and stuff. Like I said, outside of Scream and The Descent, you rarely see that angle used in the movie, and it actually worked the way it works and stuff. So, yeah, 8 out of 10. Definitely go see it. It is definitively a good, worthy follow-up to the Halloween series. And I hope we see more, because I definitely want to see more from Blumhouse on this. So, yeah, hope to catch you guys later. Peace out.